Hey, this is Tony with Salt Strong, and in this video we're going to be talking about paddletail shapes and sizes, and more specifically the actual tail of the lure itself. Because what you're going to notice from manufacturer to manufacturer, even different models within a manufacturer, the tails may be slightly different. As you can see here, this is a Z-Man Minnow Z in the Slam Shady color, and then this is the scented Paddler Z from Z-Man. Both paddletail lures are swim baits, and you'll notice one tail is skinnier than the other. And this can definitely play a role in choosing which one you want to throw, because you want to factor in water conditions, and you also want to factor in, the activity of the fish. Are they feeding very aggressively, or are they being very finicky and skittish? So when I'm choosing a paddletail to use for the day, I want to figure out, how much vibration I want that lure to put off, and also, how much does it wiggle. And the shape of the tail itself, and also the base of the tail, the thickness. The thickness of that is going to determine, how much actual action and wiggle the lure has, and then the size of the actual paddle on the paddletail lure is going to determine how much thump is in the water. So first things first, if I'm fishing pretty clean water, I can see the bottom in 2 to 3 feet of water and the fish are pretty finicky, I want to go with a smaller paddle tail in that 3 to 4 inch range, and I don't want a lot of thump in the water. So I want to go with a smaller paddle tail. So ideally, I would go with the Slam Shady 2.0, which is this one right here. Don't mind the tail. I just have it colored using this Spike It Dip and Glow. It's a little bit of an additive you can use if the water's a little bit dirtier, just to get those fish's attention. But I would go with a paddle tail that has a smaller tail on it. If the water's super clear, I would go with the scented Paddler Z, because that has the smallest tail of them all, very skinny. And then the Slam Shady 2.0 has a little bit of a bigger tail, but it has more wiggle than anything because of that pretty narrow end section leading up to the actual paddle itself. Now keep in mind, this is just a general rule of thumb. It doesn't necessarily mean that I won't throw these two lures in dirty water. It just means that I'm more comfortable throwing them in clean water, as opposed to these two right here, which have bigger tails. This is the Z-Man Minnow Z, and this is our Slam Shady Bomber, which has the most vibration out of all of them. And you can see these paddle tails are pretty wide. They're going to have a lot of thump to them, so ideally I would only really throw these in dirty water as opposed to clean water. And that's the difference between the ones that you would throw in clean water, is that you can throw them in clean water or dirty water. The ones that I would mainly throw in dirty water, I would not throw in clean water, because they have the most thumping action to them because of the wider tail. Now the last thing I'd like to consider when I am choosing which paddle tail I want to use is how fast or how slow do I want to retrieve these lures. Because what you'll find with paddle tails is that some of them, when you want to do a really slow retrieve, you may not get a lot of action out of the lure. So, it may just swim straight through the water and sort of just drag, and you won't get a lot of action out of the tail if you want to do a super slow retrieve. So that's when you want to pay attention to the thickness of the base of the tail. The paddle tails that have, a very narrow tail section, or section leading up to the actual paddle itself, these are going to be able to swim a lot more effectively doing a slow retrieve, because you don't need a lot of water resistance to get that thing moving, as opposed to one that has a really thick tail section. So you've got the Slam Shady Bomber right here, you've got the Slam Shady 2.0. If you notice the base of the tail leading up to the paddle, the Bomber is much thicker than the Slam Shady 2.0. So if you want to do a really slow presentation, I would probably avoid the Bomber, just because that tail is most likely not going to give off a lot of action like the 2.0 would, because of the thickness of the base of the tail. Now, if you're going with a fast retrieve, really any of these will get the job done, because naturally with a fast retrieve, you're going to have much more water resistance on that tail, which will get it kicking. The only thing is if you're doing like a twitch, pause type of retrieve, where you do a few fast, quick twitches of the rod tip, and then you want to let that lure fall down to the bottom, that's when you sort of want to pay attention to the thickness of the base of the tail, because these are going to have much more action on the fall than one with a very thick tail section. Unless, of course, you're using a much heavier weight, you're fishing in deeper water, because if you have heavier weight, that lure is going to fall down faster, and that will get more resistance on the tail to give it some more action. So hopefully these tips can help you narrow down which paddle tail you want to throw. And like I said before, it's really based on the conditions, the activity of the fish, and also the type of retrieve you want to do. And if you are interested in picking up any of these paddle tails that I just showed you in this video, we do sell them on our shop page at fishstrong.com. And if you are one of our insider members, you do get up to 20% off all tackle and gear on the page. So definitely be sure to take advantage of that. So that will wrap up this video. If you have any questions or comments, or perhaps any additional tips you would like to share when it comes to choosing a paddle tail based on the size of the tail, definitely let us know in the comments down below. Till next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. If you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we're the best online fishing club in America, because we actually guarantee that you'll catch more fish while saving time and also money on the tackle you need. We do this through premium education, our exclusive insider fishing community, and huge discounts on the best tackle for saltwater anglers. To learn more, go to saltstrong.com. Otherwise, we hope to see you again soon.